Frank Viel's brand of New England blues rock tugs at the heartstrings, pulling the listener on a surprise journey that transcends genre. Yet even as he's racked up accolades over the past 7 years, including New England Music Award for Album of the Year, Male Performer of the Year, Songwriter of the Year twice, and Live Act of the Year for gutsy, gritty tracks like Broken Love Song and Till the Bourbon's All Gone. He's rarely paused to savor the moment before moving on to yet another tour, album, or collaboration.
And my special guest today is Frank Viele. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Living the dream, Mark. How you doing, brother?
Great. Now, you've got a big gig coming up at the Packing House. This is your first time there, right?
Yes, it is. Well, my first time playing there. My partner Kayla performs there a couple times, and I had the pleasure of watching her perform for a packed house at the Packing House and selling her T-shirts that night. And it's a beautiful room. And when they reached out and asked me to play it, I made it the opening date on my album release tour. So pretty excited about it. Saturday, May 3rd. But like any independent artist, a bit nervous. It's my first time in the venue, so I'm hoping there's people there for me to sing to.
Do you think you're going to get the same crowd that Kayla gets?
Oh no, no. I she's brilliant. I do my best not to compare myself. Um, uh, I'm her biggest fan. So
She is amazing at what she does. And you're kind of a rockin' country-ish type of artist, right?
I've been called worse. It's funny because I have over 4,000 albums on vinyl, and I've been listening to. I'm a music lover, and I've been called eclectic from time to time, but as I've grown into my sound, I thought I was an Americana artist, like pure Americana, but when this record got released and it started landing in the ears of people that aren't me, because it's always hard to categorize your own music. Apparently, I'm an offshoot of Americana called Heartland Rock.
Okay, yep.
And then Yep. And then when they started telling me what Heartland Rock was, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am Heartland Rock, and I own all those artists' albums. And then I found out I looked up the top like 10 Heartland Rock albums of all time, and one of them is Burn, Flicker, Die by American Aquarium. And my
Hmm.
producer, who produced my latest album, The Trouble with Desire, co-produced that record and recorded it with Jason Isbell.
Oh,
So
wow.
I guess it makes sense. I went to Muscle Shoals, a New England soul cat, Americana blues soul guy, and left in a heartland rocker. And I'm very happy with the transformation.
I wanted to ask you about Muscle Shoals. Now, you won the New England Music Award for Songwriter of the Year, and you saw that paved your way over to Muscle Shoals. Was there like a special invitation to come out there, or is it something you wanted it to do?
I got reached out to by a record producer out there. His name is Jimmy Nutt, and he stumbled upon me after I won that award. And the first person he reached out to was another Connecticut friend of his, my dear friend and mentor of mine, a woman named Christine Ullman. And
Oh,
um, I had the pleasure of backing up Christine Ullman once a year for her gospel show at the Rhythm and Roots Festival in Gret Park in Rhode Island. We're doing it again this year for the eighth year in a row. I get to sing backup with her and play guitar with this killer band, and it's all mostly traditional gospel songs and then some of her stuff, and it's an incredible experience. And she's a mentor to me. And it just so happened that he had stumbled across me and connected with her, and she's like, "Yeah, here's his number. You should call Frank Viele. He's a great songwriter." And I sent him some stuff I was working on. He thought it was pretty good, and then he invited me down to Muscle Shoals to work on some songs with him for a day. And he introduced me to a friend of his while we were down there, a gentleman named James LeBlanc, who I didn't realize who that was at the time, and thank God I didn't, because I probably would have been unable to function and speak. But James LeBlanc is the father of one of my favorite Americana artists, an artist named Dylan LeBlanc, and he's also, I mean, that's the man that spoke at Rick Hall's funeral.
Oh,
He's the top songwriter for Fame. He wrote Modern Day Bonnie and Clyde for Travis Tritt. He's written for everybody, Sheryl Crow. Um, I mean, everybody. I mean, I mean, I think he wrote half the last Kid Rock record, right? Like, just unbelievable. And so the three of us sat down and I started showing them what I was working on. They started throwing some ideas at me too. Um, and I became best friends with two Muscle Shoals mainstays that weekend. And I flew home the next day and the pandemic started.
oh
And so we
my.
spent 2 years via FaceTime doing pre-production on my record. And
Wow.
then we finally dropped it. And like I said, I was actually just in Billboard magazine last week, and I don't know how that's possible for a first generation Connecticut boy who funded his music career selling office furniture. But that happened a week ago, and
Wow.
the
An
records,
article in Billboard?
yeah.
Cool.
So it's crazy. I'm so grateful, and yeah, I'm just kind of
The
Muscle
word is
Shoals.
spreading around. Frank
Yeah,
Viele.
I actually, and it's kind of a secret, but I've already written the entire next record. I'm supposed to head back there at Muscle Shoals in December of this year to record the follow up. So,
Nice. I hope you stay a little bit longer and meet some more people. Imagine just like that's part of the whole experience. You're going there to record, which is awesome, but meeting people and just taking in and learning from other people with experience, I think it's
do
probably
we
an amazing experience.
do we have time for a quick story?
Yeah.
Because I was there about 7 months ago. I went down there just to get a head start on writing this record and meeting the guys and celebrating some of the success we had with some of the singles that were released, talking about the future. They've taken a real shine to me, and they're more than just press and record on my records. They're a member of the family as I continue to grow my career as a creative. And I got down there, and my record producer Jimmy invited me. He's like, "Hey man, we're gonna start. We're gonna get together tomorrow, but I know you're here a night early. If you want, you can meet me and my friend Spooner for pizza." I'm, half my brain's like pizza in Alabama. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. No, I'm good. I'm staying in the hotel. But then I'm like, "Come on, Frank, experience life, right?" So I go out. I'm going to experience Alabama pizza. What I ended up experiencing was the person Spooner, who he
Hmm.
was introducing me to, is was an older gentleman named Spooner Oldman, who is the man playing piano on Aretha Franklin's "I Never Loved a Man."
Oh,
Is also the man that toured playing keys for Bob Dylan for 20 years.
wow.
Um, and I got to sit there and listen to stories from him for 3 hours over a bottle of wine, and that was pretty awesome. And then one of the best, coolest stories he told me is like, "Yeah, there was this time I I got called into the studio to play piano, and there was this short, like mustachio man behind the screen playing acoustic guitar and singing. And I just did 2 takes, and they said, 'Great job,' and then they sent me home. 6 months later, that song was Bad Bad Leroy Brown, and that mustachio man was Jim Croce."
Oh my.
So then we got into this whole conversation about how Jim Croce might be the original gangster rapper, right? Because he just had that chip on his shoulder, right? And I went back to the hotel that night and I wrote my first Jim Croce "Don't Mess with Me" kind of song,
Oh,
um,
cool.
called "If I Ever Catch You Talking About My Girl Again." So it's funny because it's lifelong stories. It's meeting incredible people who have been on
Hmm.
incredible journeys, and they all of a sudden become a part of your journey, and in a way, you become a part of theirs.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the coolest part about art when you break out of your comfort zone.
Hmm. And you get to share it with people.
Absolutely.
So what motivates you?
I think that the answer to that question has changed over time. That's for sure. Right now, I think going into the pandemic, before the pandemic, I was about success. I was playing 220 shows a year, um, all over the country. I opening for a lot of incredible acts, and just I wanted to climb that ladder, right? I wanted music to be my career, and I wanted that career to be a great one.
Hmm.
When the
You had
pandemic,
desire, right?
yes, good point. Um, when the pandemic hit, I realized a lot about myself. Um, one something like, like obviously there was things such as like just physical and mental health. What that kind of life can do to you, and really that I'd kind of lost touch with people I loved and cared about, right? And I was missing a huge part of life. Um, so I spent that time really, writing much more introspective songs and thinking about that, but also focusing on my physical and mental health and all that. And uh, I think somewhere in the middle of that pandemic, when I my perspective changed and my what drove me changed, um, or started to change at least. I had the chance to leave music behind and start a new life coming out of the pandemic, and I think a lot of artists, had those
Mm.
thoughts running through their head. We weren't out there touring, and for someone like me who spent 60-75% of the year on the road, that was huge, huge brain shift and just lifestyle shift. Um, but I realized then that there was no way I was getting a guitar out of my hand, and there was no way I was ever going to not play music. I
Mm.
needed to. I would try and like test myself. Hey, what happens if I don't pick my guitar up for 2 days? It was physically impossible, right? And so I knew I wanted music as a part of my life, but I also knew that there was a bigger purpose behind, aside from success. That's actually when I met my partner, Kayla Farnham, and she had done wonderful things inside the community as an artist,
Yeah.
and really does a wonderful job empowering and or harnessing the power of music and art. And I, over time, got really, really, really into that. I endeared that. It was so much better than the elbow throwing side of the industry I had spent 10 years in.
Hmm.
I learned a lot on that side. There's no doubt about it. But the side where we can make music that continues to connect with people and has a message, the side where you realize that the music you make has an impact on people's lives in a positive way. The side where when you go out and you play live, and those people that mark their calendars for you to come, that's your family, right? And that's a different world. And so I think what motivates me now is that I released an EP right at the end of the pandemic called "Time Is a Thief." That had some really powerful songs on it, like the song "Time Is a Thief" and "The River" and "Tears Drag You Down," and they were very well received, with all the money going to different charities that meant a lot to me. And then The Trouble with Desire came out, and I started releasing a couple songs off of the record before the record came out, over about a 14, 16-month period. And I was releasing lyric posters, and fans would buy the posters, frame them, put them in their kitchen, and they would send me notes telling me that this song represents them, represents
Mm.
their relationship, speaks for them. And that meant more to me than anything else. And so now my life goals have shifted. I have no delusions of being on stage at Madison Square Garden. Rather, I'm much happier playing for 50 people who need to hear what I'm saying.
That's cool. You sound very grounded.
At this point, I am. You talked to me 8 years ago. I was a freight train.
Well, you're going to be performing at the Packing House on Saturday, May 3rd, coming up very quickly. Tickets are available at thepackinghouse.us and right there in Willington, not far from WECS. If you want to stop by before the show.
I'll come say hello. I never have a problem with that. I love radio. Um, I love anybody that helps put music in people's ears. I think we need it nowadays more than ever. We need
Yeah,
music. We need art. So um, yeah, I'm gonna be at the Packet House for the first time. I can't wait. I'm coming swinging. It's the first show of the tour, the first official show of the tour. I did a sold out show last weekend with I supported my dear friend, or a good friend of mine, Jamie McLean, and his band over in North Haven, Connecticut, at the Small Batch Cellars, and it was incredible to get back out there again after a few months off. Last year at this time, by middle of April, I had already played about 74 concerts in I think 28, 29 states,
wow.
right? So, um, I started this year off a bit slow, but May 3rd is when the party really starts for me. So I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited. You know what? Before I wanted to ask you real quick about Bigger Beast Records. What was it that motivated you to start that?
Um, Cliff Notes. I spent a long time on the road as an independent. I never really had any management agencies, anything like that. Just went out there, let my music speak for itself, and I was landing opportunities, going on tour, opening for John Waite and people like this, and growing a fan base organically. Um, because it's hard to find a good manager in this industry, right? For every great manager, there's like 5,000 amazing artists, and it's really just that's the ratio of the industry. So
Hmm.
I found one. I found a great one. Worked with a lot of heroes of mine, people like Dave Matthews and Tracy Chapman. I couldn't believe, and he offered me the deal, and I took it. And my life was about to change. And 80 days into our relationship, he unfortunately passed away of a heart attack in his early
Oh,
50s. And so with that said, my partner Kayla, who I'll bring up again on this interview because she's amazing, said to me, "What are you doing? You've done all this on your own. You don't need anybody else. Go out there and get it done." And I said to her, I said, "I can't start a record label. There's no way." And then I got nominated for the New England Music Award for Artist of the Year, which is their top award. And I jokingly said to her, I said, "If I win this award, I'll start a record label." Thinking to myself, I'm never going to win that. The people who win that are people that are on my Spotify playlist. They're people who I own their vinyl. Like, these are people I'm listening to since I was in college. I love these artists. I'm not going to. They're much bigger than me, right? Well, shame on me. I won. And on stage that day, I made the announcement that I would start it. And first, it was just going to be for me and her. Um, but then that led into this concept of building an ecosystem where I know you're aware we're running 7 music festivals in 5 states this year for independent songwriters. We are I'm releasing the albums and our singles and albums of 15 artists this year from as far
Wow.
south as Muscle Shoals and as close as Meriden, Connecticut, right? Um, and yeah, all we're really doing, and we're running 4 music venues in Connecticut right now. So supporting independent artists and working situations, or all of our festivals are raising money from major not-for-profits, from animal shelters to homeless families in Connecticut. So it just kind of kept happening, and people are asking me, "So what are you doing next? And how did you think of this idea?" I tell everybody I'm doing the Forrest Gump business plan. I got this far, I might as well keep going. I ran this far, I might as well keep going.
And you're the kind of guy you're making friends as you go along, and you're gaining from what they bring to the table as well, I bet.
Everything to me in the music industry, there's no logic to the music industry. If I've learned anything touring this country for almost 20 years, there's no logic,
Mm.
right? There's no this isn't enterprise rent a car where, like, oh, you start at this and then you sell this many cars, you move to this. It doesn't work that way. The blessing of the industry is also the way, which is camaraderie, community, partnership, creating all boats rise scenarios, and surrounding yourself with quality people that appreciate and understand the importance of and power of art. It's
Yep.
just that simple. I not really simple, but yeah, it's that's how I feel today, Mark.
I hear you. Well, Frank, you know what? Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Would you like to play a quick game before we go?
Sure.
This is called Lyrical Ponderings. I'm going to give you a song title. The song title is in the form of a question. You can either tell me who sang the song or answer the question. Pick a number between 1 and 201.
113.
All right. What kind of man would I be? That is the song title.
Hmm.
No, no looking it up on Google.
I'm not looking it up. I'm just thinking. What kind of man? That Ray Charles?
No,
Ray Charles got a song like that, though.
probably. There's a lot of similar ones on here. Um, what
What kind
kind
of
of
man?
man would I be? Chicago, 1989.
Oh, jeez.
This is not easy. I
Oh.
was actually thinking that you might get it because you're a
Yeah,
worldly man.
I mean, you throw Chicago at me, but that's like, oh, I was thinking Ray Charles is what kind of man are you?
Ah, okay. From a man with 4,000 vinyl records, I figured you had a good chance to get that.
I mean, what kind of man are you is on the What I'd Say record, right? So as soon as you say what kind of man, I'm gonna head towards Ray Charles. My grandma was a stride piano player, um,
Ah,
and so I grew up on that, right? So um, yeah, I never would have guessed Chicago. I'm not gonna front on that. I never would have guessed Chicago.
me either. So answer the question then. What kind of man would I be?
If what? What kind of man would I be?
What kind of man would you be if you didn't have that revelation during the pandemic and you were still out there touring 200 shows a year all across the country?
I'd be a sad man.
And then tired man.
Yes, absolutely. I'd be a sad and tired man. Um, and I'm glad that's not who I am or ever was, but I'm glad I'm not that guy.
Hmm.
I got to tell you, I know you're aware of the 21 Songwriters Festival we have going on this Sunday in Holyoke, Mass. That's one of my brainchilds, and this time in partnership with Mark Sherry and this whole concept of gathering the strength I get from art and from the people who make it, and that camaraderie and community and people that support it like yourself. Um, I'll tell you, man, it's the best cup of coffee I could ever drink every morning. It gets me
Yep,
going, and I really can't imagine my life without
no doubt. Well, Frank, good luck to you in all you do, all your future endeavors. Good luck with 21 Songwriters. Good luck at the Packing House
it. The
on
Packing
May.
House, Saturday, May 3rd. Yeah. It
A great place to see a show.
really
And
is a
and you
beautiful
are a
place.
great artist to be seen.
Thank you. That means a lot, Mark. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you, Frank.